Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, we have two feature stories for you. We'll go to Nebraska for the ups and downs of passing the family farm along to the next generation.
We'll have two Southern gardening segments today. Most people think of poinsettias for holiday decorating, but give the Rex Begonia a try. It has holiday beauty too. We'll also show you the Montego Snapdragon. It's a cool season bloomer you can use for cut flowers.
Our first feature story today is from 7 years ago. It's about a vocational agriculture teacher who turned his shop skills into metal artistry.
When I'm set up with my exhibits, and it just amazed me how people come up and say, wow, this is very unique. How did you come up with this, you know? And I feel good that people love what I do, you know, just something that I do. You know, I don't consider myself an artist. Everybody say that I am, but it's just something that I love to do, and I do it.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artist Ford. Welcome to Farm Week, and a happy Thanksgiving to you today. We're a day late or so, but
we still wish you the best on this holiday.
We still wish you the best, and I have to admit, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday.
It's hard to believe here we are almost at the end of this year.
Boy, 2013 has gone by fast.
Well, today it's an all-feature version of our show on Farm Week. Our first story is about a Rolling Fork, Mississippi school teacher, one who teaches vocational skills to students.
Leighton Lee Washington knows how to handle a cutting torch and a welder. In his spare time, he turns his skill toward creating art. The material he sculpts was once used in the service of a king, King Cotton that is. Washington turns cotton picker spindles and other bits of metal into an imaginative works of sculpture. This story first aired in April 2006, 7 years ago. It was produced by Farm Week's Brian Utley.
This is a spindle, which comes from a mechanical cotton picker. This is what it looked like when I pick it up from the tractor places. What it does, it rotates. There's a gear that rotates it, and the spindle spins. And as it spins, the cotton gets caught up in it. And that's how the cotton is extracted from the boll. And this is what it takes to get started and to make one of my little sculptures. I had some extra ones lying around on the table, and I was trying to see what to do with them. And I started shaping and forming and put them in different positions, and I saw a man appear. I always make my left hand first, my left arm first. I don't know if it has something to do with me being in the Army or what. At that point, I started heating, cutting, and welding, and it looked like a man, but it was just a stick man. And I started, well, I'll do another one, and I did another one, and now I've done quite a few. I teach agricultural power and machinery, which deals with a little bit of welding, tractor operation and maintenance. And I try to convey to my students that you can take farm equipment, old farm equipment that's been discarded, and make something valuable out of it. And I didn't consider it art, it was just something I called myself doing. At this point, I would lay the man on the table, and then I would weld it together, cover. When I'm set up with my exhibits, and it just amazed me how people come up and say, wow, this is very unique. How did you come up with this, you know? And I feel good that people love what I do, you know, just something that I do. You know, I don't consider myself an artist. Everybody say that I am, but it's just something that I love to do, and I do it.
I bought the first one, and I have bought 4 pieces. The crucifixion, a fisherman, and I bought the folding of the flag. And his art is just fabulous.
He's creative with his art, and I like the basketball players. And the one with the man and the woman, like they finna get married, stuff like that was pretty unique.
I teach them how to do that if they want to learn. If they don't want to learn, I don't try to force it on them because it's not part of the curriculum. I made a piece for each student, but I made them sit there and watch me as I made each piece that they wanted me to make. And I said, the next time you do one, which should be coming up in April or this month, I said, well, you're going to have to do the next one by yourself.
Well, this one is okay.
Well, I was welding one day, and then it was like this big one that he was making. Then I said I wanted to try one, so I made one like a man like hunting deer. Yeah, then I made one of those while the man was in the deer stand. So that's when I made. I made 2 of those.
I can do that?
He tell me all the time, nothing gonna leave out this shop half done. Like, he'll tell you something, he'll joke about it, but when he gets serious, he's serious about it. Like, he wants you to get the job done. Like, he's not the type of person that you just up and just half do it. He want everything done to perfection.
You don't want to go
Like I said, he's just a fun person. He fun, he real cool.
You want to go along?
That's the finishing product once I put the paint on it. The clear lacquer. That's it. I name every piece that I make. At first, I didn't name it. I didn't write anything on it, when I first started. And to one lady said, "You're supposed to write on the back of this thing," She wouldn't accept it until I wrote on it. And that's, and when I started thinking about artists, when you look at artwork that has been painted, it's always had someone's name on it. So I got in gear, got it straight. There's 10 sculptures on here. Of course, there's one walking down the center with the money tray, and people are putting money in there. And then there's some sitting, and you can see how they're looking up at the preacher. And I decided I would have the preacher standing up with his arm outstretched, preaching. I took a dollar bill and had cut it up into small pieces, so it looked like that everyone who's there are giving money to the preacher. I just make things because I don't know what someone's gonna ask for. I make things that I like, of course, but I just try to find a different variety of things that people want. Before I started sculpture, and I had no idea, I didn't think I had any artistic anything in me, So the only thing I can say is just try it. Just see what you can do, and you'll be surprised, divine, there's a divine movement somewhere that causes you to do things, and evidently that's what happened to me.
And if you're interested in more information on Lee Washington, you can watch this story again on our website, Facebook page, or YouTube page. We'll also have contact information for Washington as well. Our website is farmweek.msucares.com. Now, that story aired originally on Farmweek about 7 years ago, back when standard definition television was still in vogue. Washington has opened his own art gallery in Rolling Fork, and you can call him for an appointment, and he'll take you there and you can check it out with him. He's still making the cotton picker spindle art, but he's also branched out into yard art and bottle trees. He also makes cars and trucks out of license plates. Washington also does custom work and commissions. Layton, he's also become a member of the Mississippi Craftsman's Guild of Mississippi, which is you have to submit, submit your work has to be judged as to whether you can become a member. So he's crossed that hurdle. He also went to the Chicago's Blues Festival where he represented the state. One thing we might mention too is that the guitar work you heard in that story, well, Brian Utley, who works with us at the Office of Ag Communications at Mississippi State, he was the one that did the guitar work for that story. I personally could never be that creative. I mean, that's just me. I'm just an old news guy. But the fact that he can see those pieces of metal and make them come together, he does have an artistic mind.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, But
I
once
like
again,
that weightlifter. I like that one.
I like the weight. I really like the cowboy and the little spiral, his lariat. That, you know, for him to think, put those two together and you come up with a cowboy. I mean, my hat's off to him.
Well, time now as we move along on our trivia quiz on Farm Week. Usually after we eat a big meal on Thanksgiving, well, we start wondering about our weight. And today's trivia quiz is about obesity in young people. Now, out of every 100 children in the United States, how many are considered obese? Is the answer 5, 20, 35, or 50? We'll have that answer after today's 2 Southern Gardening segments. When you talk about Christmas flowers, the poinsettia usually comes to mind first. In this week's first Southern Gardening segment, the Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman tells us the Rex Begonia brings its own elegance to holiday decorating.
The poinsettia may be the quintessential holiday plant, but there are other plants that are just as festive and deserve their own holiday cheer. Today I'm at Natchez Trace Greenhouses, where they are growing some striking Rex Begonias which are perfect for holiday decorations. Rex Begonias are primarily indoor plants known for their colorful and textured foliage. The coarse textured leaves are certainly colorful, with streaks and splashes of silver to cream to burgundy. There is a symmetry to the spiral shape of the leaves which adds to their beauty. Rex Silver Blush has an almost metallic sheen with its silvery edges and bright pink middles. The variety Reddington has red-tinged green leaves on top with rusty brown bottoms. Rex Iron Cross has medium green leaves with a pebbled and quilted surface. The middle of the leaf features chocolate brown highlights on the center veins. A most unusual selection is Rex Escargot. The foliage has a curling snail-like pattern starting at the base of the leaf. Propagation of Rex Begonia is as interesting as their varied colors. Whole leaves are cut and placed in growing media, and new plantlets form at the base of the leaf. Direct sunlight can damage your Rex Begonia, so always place an indirect light for the best growth and performance. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says Rex Begonias like high humidity, but don't overwater them. Well, are you on the lookout for another cool season bedding plant? In this week's second Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman says you need to try a dwarf snapdragon called Montego.
A longtime favorite flower of mine for the cool season landscape has always been the snapdragon. A couple of years ago, we shot a Southern Gardening segment and talked about snapdragons. These were the tall sonnet and rocket varieties. These are great for cut flowers and have a soft cinnamon scent. In this segment, I want to show you a dwarf variety I really like called Montego. Montego snapdragons will only grow to 10 inches tall and wide. Like their big cousins, there is a wide variety of colors. The colors of red, yellow, white, pink, and the bicolors would be gorgeous lining the front edge of a flower bed. These plants are ideal for planting in the full sun to partial shade. The individual flowers are aligned neatly and tightly bundled on the many stems. And the flowers are big for the size of the plant, so it's good that the Montego snapdragons have strong, sturdy stems. The flower heads will stay compact and not stretch in the warmer spring weather. And just like their big cousins, these dwarf dragons also live in the flowers of Montego.
I'm Bachman, the snapdragon.
Go ahead and try some dwarf Montego snapdragons in your cool season landscape this year. I know you won't be disappointed. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says the dwarf Montego snapdragon will last longer than other dwarf snapdragons.
Well, it's time now for the answer to today's trivia quiz on Farm Week. Again, our question is about obesity, a major problem here in the United States. It appears to be happening younger and younger. Now, out of every 100 children in the U.S., how many are considered obese? Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says the answer is C, 35. This is for ages 5 through 11.
We're going to pause for a break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll have the calendar and one more feature story for you. It sounds easy until you try it. See the ups and downs of a Nebraska family trying to pass on the family farm.
MSUcares.com is a popular website offering coordinated access to Mississippi State University's research and extension system. Now we have a Spanish language version of MSUcares.com where you'll find newsletters, brochures, and publications. Plus, you can view Spanish language videos on topics including credit, finances, and immunization. Visit MSUcares.com today and click on the En Español link for useful Spanish language information.
Before we get back to our last story, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. The annual row crop short course starts Monday at Mississippi State University. This is the place to be if you want to figure out how to improve your operation in 2014. It takes place on campus Monday through Wednesday, December 2nd through the 4th. As we look at weed resistance, sensor-based irrigation, a lot is on the agenda. The time for free registration has passed. At the door costs $40, but that does include several meals, and they do eat well. We'll have a link to help you sign up. A one-day workshop on managing wild pig damage in Mississippi takes place this Thursday. The location is the Pontotoc County Extension Office on Hardin Drive in Pontotoc. Please register by Monday. The cost is $20. You'll learn about trapping and removal techniques. You'll also hear about wild hog diseases and their implications for humans and domestic livestock. We'll have a phone number on our Farm Week calendar. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Many farm parents are proud of the day when a son or daughter announces they want to take over the family operation. Most family farms, however, have a difficult time figuring out how to make it happen. For example, will the child buy the farm because the parents probably need the money for their retirement? Also, how is this going to be accomplished fairly when there are non-farming siblings involved? Many farmers and families put off making transition plans because these questions are so difficult. Market to Market's Mike Tobias introduces us to a Nebraska family farm that's in transition, for better or worse.
Hang on a minute. What do we got in here?
It was the summer of 2000. Kelly and Riley Skurdlant had a lot on their minds. At this moment, whether a skunk was hiding inside irrigation pipe. But long term, they were both thinking about the future of the Skurdlant family farm.
Come on, Mischief!
Riley was 18, fresh out of high school with a passion for working with cattle and desire to do something different than most of his classmates. That's stay in agriculture.
A lot of people tell you if they could sit in an office and make money, they would, but I'd rather work from sun up to sundown for it and sweat it out.
Come on, girls!
Kelly, Riley's dad, wanted this to happen, just like he took over the farm from his father. But Kelly had concerns. Running a farm was getting expensive. Fuel, fertilizer, and equipment costs were going up.
I think you'd make a very good farmer, but it's tougher and tougher all the time for these young guys.
There was a lot of uncertainty for Riley and the Skurdlant farm. Flash forward 13 years. Riley is farming with his dad. After high school, he took community college classes and had a series of full-time jobs, all ag-related, most fairly close to home. Most recently, he was working with a fertilizer plant in Bladen. In one way or another, he also stayed involved with the farm, gradually starting to make more management decisions, especially involving livestock. The Skurdlant family farm became his full-time job at the beginning of 2013. Taking a role he describes as primary operator and secondary manager.
Dad finally decided he was getting too old to do a lot of it and wanted to slow down just a little bit. So I think the last couple of years I've been planting a lot for him, and a lot of hours at night after I'd worked all day over there, I'd come home, plant half the night for him, and I think he could see it was kind of getting worn down on me and my family and everyone else, so I think it was time that we did something different.
Certainly having him back on the farm, really, literally back on the farm, is a big difference. And although we are at times in conflict about management, and probably not as much conflict as he thinks, but it's just amazing to have him here.
Kelly, in his early 60s, calls this an evolution of the Skirtland farm, similar to the way he took over the operation from his father. It's a typical way farms change hands, and the typical way young people enter agriculture.
Without a parent or a child relationship, or a grandparent or an uncle or a neighbor or someone to help get going, it's really difficult to jump into this. So I would be more than...
Geller's been helping young farmers get started for several decades, a time during which there's been a trend toward fewer young people entering agriculture. In 1982, 38% of principal farm operators had less than 10 years experience. By 2007, that number was down to 26%. But Geller has a feeling that trend may be changing.
I have a hunch that we will see an increase, or at least a stabilizing of the younger people coming back in. I think a lot of it has to do with the economics of the whole situation, where especially in the crop side of things, profits have really returned to agriculture in a way that they haven't in the last 30 or 40 years.
I think in this area there are probably more younger guys Riley's age, in that 30 to 35 range, that are staying in ag.
That's just an amendment. It can be an amendment to the lease. You just add it on to what you have.
At a workshop for beginning farmers and ranchers, Angie Miller is talking about leasing pasture land. With rapidly rising ag land values, access to land is one of the big barriers for beginning farmers. Miller, an attorney who works with a beginning farmer program, says that's why it's important to have programs that help.
Nebraska is the first state to pioneer what's called the our beginning farmer tax credit, which allows for a beginning farmer to have a 3-year lease with an established producer generally. The established producer gets a 3-year tax credit. The beginning farmer gets a 3-year lease and a foot in the door.
When I started farming, the thing to do was you go out and buy some ground. You buy the land and maybe share some machinery for a while and maybe rent a quarter or two of ground to go with that. Today, that buy the land thing looks like it's coming 5, 10, 15 years down the road before they're able to generate enough capital to come up with that down payment so they can cash flow that land purchase.
Land isn't an issue for Riley Skirtland. The family has about 1,800 acres. That's large for a family farm in the United States. Here, they grow corn, soybeans, and wheat, and run about 150 head of cattle. Now, the challenge is the transition, or evolution, as Kelly Skirtland calls it.
I think it's the lack of communication that really is when we see transitions begin to fail.
Whether you're family, relation, or even if you aren't family related, you need to figure out a way to talk about a lot of things. Expectations in the generations tend to be quite a bit different.
Transitions can be formal or informal. The latter, common in family operations, would probably best describe how Riley and Kelly are doing business.
There's a lot of old ways of thinking and new ways of thinking kind of coming together that don't really like to agree a lot of times.
When you work together in this kind of an operation, I think you're going to have differences.
We're both not the best of communicators. It's going to be kind of fly by our seat of our pants, I think, really. But it's probably the most wrong plan you could have in place, but that's kind of the way we're going to go with it, I think.
We probably both have a quick trigger, but things never last very long between us. It's done and over, and then we go on and get the job done. So that's probably not the way you would have someone write it out on a piece of paper for you to do this, but I think it's going to work for us.
For Market to Market, I'm Mike Tobias.
You can watch this story on Passing on the Family Farm on our Farmweek website, farmweek.msucares.com. You can also watch Farm Week stories on YouTube and Facebook. And we'll have a link to the Market to Market website where you can see the story as well as read the script. Again, it's farmweek.msucares.com. And of course, you can understand how a communication breakdown could be a big hurdle in that kind of situation.
But you have to start talking, because if you put it off, a crisis could happen, and you don't make good decisions in a crisis. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, the boys of the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps.
They did their work more than 70 years ago, but many of you are still enjoying the fruits of their labor. This 1930s Depression-era program put unemployed young men to work across the United States. They improved national and state parks. They performed many soil conservation and tree planting projects.
For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.